This NASCAR 2024 Cup Series Championship Bubble Update edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is giving away $15 million in Best Ball Mania 5. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm's college football and NFL picks and projections are now live. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you ask me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
I don't know about you, but anytime Vince Vaughn screams at me to start my engines, I'm starting my engines. Damn it. It is, of course, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez. Cody, after today, we're back to talking actual racing things on the track and not just futures updates. But we got one more in the bag for you guys to talk about. We kind of spilled very long yesterday, and we decided to carry over what we had left to this episode on Friday. But Cody, I'm excited not only to be ending the week, but to be getting that much closer to talking about the Cookout 400.
Yeah, love it. This is the end of the bye week, right? We go into this weekend with no racing, and then we're full on back into it. And right on to Richmond, and only a few races left in the regular season. Of course, we know for the Truck Series, as we talked about earlier, only one race left for them. A couple of races left here in the Cup Series and Xfinity Series, and then playoffs. It's that time.
It's totally that time. And honestly, too, it feels weird because we're in August and it doesn't feel like we're in August, but it definitely feels like we're in August. I mean, the time warp is real. I feel like we just started talking about this whole season. Now we're starting to talk about playoffs. Before we know it, it will be November. We'll be wrapping up the season, and we'll be cashing some of these championship bets that we've been talking about all week long. Of course, today, like we said, we're going to tie up some loose ends. We've got some to make the playoff bets that we haven't talked about yet. We've got some manufacturer bets. We've got a couple other things that Bet365 has got out there for us. This is the only book, Cody, I think right now that's got anything other than Championship 4 and Championship bets, right?
Yeah, it's the only place that I've seen it. So hopefully, if you've got access to that, of course, get some of these bets placed. If not, it'll still be a good conversation to listen to. Maybe you're close to a state where you can drive over and get these bets placed before next Sunday.
Indeed. So we will do that for you. We've got that all up on tap. But let me tell you first about the Sports Gambling Podcast. They've launched their 32 NFL team previews. The mothership, hey, we watched three quarters, not even full 3 quarters of a football game last night. Mother Nature decided it wanted to rear its ugly head like it doesn't. Was a NASCAR race last night? I'm confused. I don't know what's going on.
NASCAR was off. Mother Nature didn't know where she was supposed to be.
They're like, I had a date, but I don't know where they ended up. So I'm going to go over here to the football game.
They're like, ooh, everybody's excited about this sporting event? Okay.
Well, what we learned from last night was probably not rolled into the preview yet, but I'm sure as the season progresses, they'll get there. But the Sports Gambling Podcast, they launched the 32 NFL team previews. And as a bonus, every team preview episode is going to include a code word. So when you submit that 32 code word phrase, you could be the lucky winner who gets a $500 NFL Circa future bet. So make sure you go subscribe over there to wherever you get your podcasts like this one, but more importantly, the SGPN app. So get down on that. Yeah, Cody.
I was listening to the Vikings preview earlier, which is the one that came out. I think they did it live last night, but came out this morning. And Kramer. They have a guy that wants to do a league where basically last place. If you're the loser of the league, you have to get an SGP and tattoo. And so he was asking for support for the tattoo money, I think, for the loser. And so they're like, oh, will anybody that works for us be in this? And they're like, oh, Cody, he's in all the fantasy leagues. And Kramer's like, you think he's man enough to do this? Well, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not even on this episode. I'm getting called out and I'm like, oh, geez, man. Like, you give me enough money, I might just get a tattoo of the SGP anyways. I might not even need to lose the league, but now I might have to go enter that league. So here we are.
So listen, if you got an SGPN tattoo, I would invoice that monthly for advertisement money. Like I would put that on there every month.
And like they were sort of free on what which logo we use. So it would have to be the NASCAR Gambling Podcast logo, right? And it's probably going on my ass. So I feel like that's where that type of tattoo needs to go. But I don't know. I have a little behind the scenes. I got the Husker tattoo on one calf. I could do the NASCAR Gambling Podcast on the other calf, balance it out. All right, maybe I'll get in and just lose the league on purpose.
Hey,
and I get a free tattoo, right?
Free tattoo, and you get to invoice it every month for advertising. Old Fashioned Football checking in saying, sorry, I'm late. Didn't realize it was making money o'clock already.
We just got done sweating out the end of the water polo, the women's water polo. So hopefully you checked out my article on that over on So You Like Sports, because 2 for 3. The half point. Hungary just missed it by a half point, Rod. So damn close for the sweep.
It really was. 17-11 Hungary. They barely did not cover over China. And they did make it interesting late. I mean, China hung in, but Hungary got up. USA handled France easily by at least 10 points, or at least 9.5 that you got there. And Canada covering +3.
Close. That's all we needed. That was the thought. They were probably not going to win, but keep it close.
Mm-hmm.
They did. So, it was fun.
Good job, Cody. Can't wait to see how the footy turns out there with Justin over there. Got there. Justin saying one terrible
Iowa fan
logo does not balance out an awesome logo. SGP just saying.
Got to do what you got to do.
Got to do what you got to do.
There's been a few seasons where I've just put like tape over the tattoo so I don't have to walk around with it and let people know that I'm a fan.
or just have your daughter draw something and then just slap it on the leg.
Put it on there. It's like
this is better artwork.
End of the Scott Frost era was pretty rough. Well, the whole Scott Frost era was pretty rough, but
that's why I won't get tattoos. That's just I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. All right, Cody, let's talk a little bit of NASCAR going on here. We've pretty much exhausted like most of the news. So let's just get right into these playoff standings and kind of where we're at as we start to look forward to.
I've got the Bob Pockris cheat sheet if we want to go off of that. So everybody that's won a race is now actually officially locked in. So of course Larson, Hamlin, Byron, Bell, Blaney, they've all got multiple wins. And then all of your one-win guys, Elliott, Reddick, Keselowski, Bowman, Logano, Suarez, and Cindric are all locked into the playoffs. They will be in there, so they obviously will not be part of to make the playoffs discussion, of course, because they're in there. The rest of them, Martin Truex Jr. has a 108-point cushion over the cut line. Obviously, that is a fairly sizable cushion there. He's looking pretty good. Ty Gibbs has a 42-point lead over the cut line. It's also pretty decent, but some cause for concern there. And then Chris Buescher's only 17 to the good. Ross Chastain 7 to the good. Bubba Wallace 7 to the bad. Really, those are the only people that can point in at this point. To take an absolute miracle for Chase Briscoe to do it, and I think Kyle Busch is maybe even too far at this point beyond that. So really, it is these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys for 4 spots, assuming we don't get a new winner below the cut line, because of course somebody else wins Daytona. That's a regular, obviously, driver competing for points, or any of these other last 3 races. Or we have 4 races left: Richmond, Michigan, Daytona, and Darlington. So like an Eric Jones steals the Southern 500, something like that. That would obviously move this cut line up and bounce another person out. So that's the current cut line and how it's looking going into this. I do wish I'm a little bit sad. So basically, we've only got numbers on 4 different guys as far as to make the playoffs, yes or no. And I'm a little bit sad, Rod, that they didn't give us more just yes options. Like, why not have a Corey LaJoie in there at 100 to 1? I mean, I guess you're just going to bet him to win Daytona anyways, but give me this option too.
Yeah, and that's the confusing thing to me, because I was going to bring that exact same thing up, is that we've only got, about a handful of drivers, I think 5 over here, that we've got yes-no options on it, and it's really all it is yes-no. A lot of these guys are around the bubble, which is why I named this episode the bubble episode, because that's kind of where we're at. But like Cody said, to your point, I mean, why not kind of expand the field a little bit and give some yes options, just because if they do end up winning a race between now and the end of the cuts, then you're in, So yeah, if I don't know if I Corey LaJoie, but I mean, we're talking some of these other guys further down, maybe a Josh Berry, maybe what? Stacking pennies.
Now I'm fucking shit up, but yeah, it's my Stacking Penny shirt.
Well,
there's a bigger LaJoie logo on the back, but I'm not turning around.
I was about to say it's only 1 penny. It's not very stacked, is it? But
he's gonna be running out of pennies soon.
Oh yeah, he's definitely out of pennies now. But yeah, so again, we're only gonna be talking about a handful of these drivers. So I do, like you, wish we kind of would have got more, but alas, we don't. So here's what we got. Hold on, it says show more. Nope. Okay, no, that's not. That's that. I clicked on show more, and it was just.
Yeah, I've tried that before, because I'm like, not more options. Damn it.
All right. So then what say we dive into a couple of these, but let's do that. And let's take a nice long look at some of these. So let's do this first. Let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy just launched their Underdog Streaks. Hit your first 2 pick'em entries, then go streaking. If you can get an 11-0 run, you can win 1,000x, plus Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. You can also use specials and boost now on all flexed entries. We're going to use ours on all of our favorite underdog plays once racing comes back, but there's still plenty more to be found all over the SGPN Twitter, so make sure you keep your eyes on that. And when you're doing that, sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. Odds Jam is your one-stop shop for beating the sports books. Odds Jam uses millions of data points across every U.S. and Canadian sportsbook to show you the best value plays for your money. Their line shopping tool shows you the best price for any bet that you want to make across countless sportsbooks, not just DraftKings and FanDuel, but also BetOnline, Bovada, Cut, and many more. Their arbitrage tool will find opportunities where you can bet both sides of the same prop on different sportsbook to guarantee a positive ROI. Their new fantasy tool features the highest EV plays relative to the sportsbook's odds, allowing you to crush sites like Underdog Fantasy. They even have a tool for finding the best sign-up bonuses. So if you're interested in trying Odds Jam, you can get a 7-day free trial now by using the link below. Don't forget to enter the promo code SGPN to get 35% off of the first month of your subscription. OddsJam.com, promo code SGPN. You ever say something so much that it's just become second nature?
Yeah, that's not what the prompter said, Rod. You got to stick to the prompter.
I swear to God, the prompter and me are not friends right now, but we'll fix that. All right. Cody, I don't want to start from the very top of this, because I don't think the conversation needs to start at the top of this. I want to start kind of deeper into this. I want to start with Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is yes at plus 320, no at minus 450. That's a really heavy weighted on the no, because he's not one of the drivers that's completely locked in. So
he's not gonna point in. I mean, I suppose mathematically maybe he's got some type of chance, but he's 112 points below the cut line. That's not getting a new winner. Like, you'd have to have at least 2 people that struggle through that. Like, it just, yeah, it's not gonna happen point wise. So I guess the way to look at this, it's only plus 320 to the yes, which is kind of crazy. When he can't get in on points, he would have to win. Well, you're likely going to get him at I suppose Daytona will be less than like a 20-1, but he's probably going to be more than 20-1 on the other 3 races. So just bet him to win those 4 races, right? Because even if he's only like 10-1 to win a Daytona, you should just bet that instead of betting plus 320 to make it. It doesn't, where this is priced doesn't make a ton of sense. I mean, there's really truly almost no way. I mean, what's the maximum amount of points? You can earn 60 points in a race, I think. I get, but that's if you're winning. Boy, yeah, it's just it ain't happening on points.
My thought process on this, in that the books are like, it's Kyle Busch. People are going to want to take action on Kyle Busch, and obviously they've made it to where you can't really bet on the no. So the only option for you to do it is to take the yes part of it. So if you're a Kyle Busch truther, and you look at this and you're like, oh man, of course Kyle Busch is going to win and get into the playoffs, and I'm going to definitely bet 325. But you're right. I mean, this is a trap in and of itself, because guess what? He would have to win a race. So you're better off betting him to win every single time. I mean, there's only 4 races. So even if you broke up your unit a quarter or a unit at a time and put money on it, you're going to make more money than if you were to bet him.
Way bigger numbers. And like, that's the only real true way. I mean, yeah, he's not going to suddenly win multiple stages in all of these races and not win the race. And it's just, and if that happens, fine, great, but it still ain't worth it at this price, because that's just, it's so far out of the realm of really true possibilities. So, yeah, I think you just got to pass on this. The minus 450 on the no side obviously is pretty tough to lay.
Because that wouldn't, if you were one of those people that scoffs at these types of, minus 450, I couldn't do that. So they do it. And then all of a sudden he wins a race. Could you imagine just having that ticket? And I'd probably go take it out and take my shotgun to it. Just bam, take it out. Cause that would be horrible.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't think he's going to win one, you only got to wait 4 races to cash it, but yeah, minus 450, generally not something you're wanting to do.
Nope. All right, I'm going to bring up Ross Chastain next. Another one of those guys. His is minus 270 to the yes, plus 210 for the no. Cody, I mean.
So I think, Rod, that
it feels tempting to take the no side.
It is very obviously minus 270 for yes is absolutely not. But the no side of this, and really, you can sort of, play this along with another bet that I'm going to want to play in a little bit, which, spoiler alert, is going to be for Bubba Wallace to make it. And you're getting, so the deal with Chastain here on betting the no side of things, he's only 7 points to the good. He had a pretty big lead over Bubba Wallace just 2 races ago, and Bubba just crushed into that against Chastain. And now you're going to Richmond. Well, Bubba's pretty good there. You're going to Michigan. Bubba's extremely good at Michigan, very fast. I think he finished second place last season, I want to say, or has in one of the last couple of races there. He's always been good there. Very, similar to Kansas where he's good. Daytona, he's a great super speedway racer now. Anything can go wrong at Daytona. We get that. But and then Darlington is kind of, I don't really know what his stats look like there, but you got 3 strong tracks coming up for him. 2311. We've obviously talked a lot about them this week with Tyler Reddick. And Bubba, for as much crap as people give him, like he did it last year, right? He got into the playoffs, and then not only did he get in the playoffs, but he advanced through the playoffs and, put in the work and grinded at getting those points. They're obviously focused on getting points right now. I think they're going to have a very good opportunity to get stage points at places like Michigan and play strategy next week in Richmond. I just don't have any faith in Chastain right now. So we'll obviously talk more about Bubba here in a few when we get to him. But the no side of this is very attractive, because so you've obviously, if Bubba Wallace catches him and passes him, that takes him out. Well, even if Bubba Wallace doesn't catch him and pass him, and somebody wins at Daytona, that's different. Then that's where you're getting, because if you look at it, I mean, any of these people could win at Daytona and suddenly that playoff spot gets moved down, right? So now Chastain's on the outside looking in, and that would put, I mean, he's only 10 points behind Buescher, so he's not far, but it would make it tougher. So, if Chase Briscoe wins, if Kyle Busch wins, if Todd Gilliland wins, if Michael McDowell, Josh Berry, Noah Gragson, Carson Hocevar, Ricky Stenhouse, Ryan Preece, Eric Jones, Corey LaJoie, Justin Haley, like all these guys can win at Daytona. Dare I say Daniel Hemrick? He's actually a decent super speedway racer. Probably not John Hunter. Austin Dillon's done it before. in that race for us, right? Zane Smith, Harrison Burt, like all of these guys eligible for points win one of that race, and all of a sudden he's on the outside looking in, and he's plus 210. That's pretty solid for a guy that's in no way, shape, or form anywhere close to being locked into the playoffs.
Honestly, that is where my head is too, because if there is a new winner, if there is somebody that is a new winner, he is the last guy to get bumped. And so he would really have to scratch and claw to climb up the ranks to make himself not the last guy on the bubble. But being the last guy on the bubble is not a fun position to be in, especially when you're only 7 points to the good and you got a guy like Bubba Wallace chasing after you. And you've had races like he's had in the last 4 weeks. That 33rd at Nashville. We talked about this a little in the championship episode. 33rd at Nashville, 22nd in Chicago, 36th at Pocono, and 15th in Indianapolis. So, I mean, it's not been that great of a stretch for him. Only 7 top 10 finishes at all this season. That's not really a strong season. And if you're on the bubble with only 7 points of a cushion, then I'm leaning on the no side of it too.
And yes, he could obviously win Daytona as well. He's good at super speedway racer, but outside of that, like you've not really seen him compete for wins or have a super fast car. And Bubba hasn't necessarily either, but his teammates been a lot better. You don't get that out of the Trackhouse camp right now. Like Suarez has not been good. Yeah, he's got to win because he won at a super speedway earlier this year, but that helps your argument even more betting against Chastain because somebody like Suarez can win and get in and punch their tickets. So, I do really like this one, and I will be betting on the no side of Ross Chastain at plus 210.
It's a little sad to say, but this is where we're at in this one. But here's the thing. We'll go ahead and talk about Bubba now, but we'll make that transition over to Bubba Wallace because his numbers, I'm surprised. Honestly, I'm very surprised that his yes is at plus 180. This is very short considering you've got Ross Chastain at minus 270 for a yes. So just because I know he's on the other side of the bubble, plus 180 is still a really good number.
And his no is minus 240. So it's like the way this number is set up, they're very certain he's not making the playoffs where he's only 7 points out of it. Now, the same argument exists of, obviously, if we get a winner, that bumps him 2 spots at this point below the cut line and puts him, but he's only, so he would be, 24 points behind Buescher, which isn't that far. But for the number this is at almost 2-1 for the yes side of things, especially if you're going to take the Chastain no, if we don't get that new winner at Daytona, which is very possible, right? Of course, any of these other guys that are already locked in could win, or one of these guys also. If you're taking the no on Chastain at plus 210 and the yes on Bubba at plus 180, these things very well could correlate extremely well, right? If Bubba passes Ross and they're the ones battling for the last spot and you get the right side of this, now you got a plus 180 and you have the plus 210 on the other side. So, this is the way that I foresee it going, based on, and really you could probably make the same argument if the numbers were flopped, right? If Chastain was plus money to make it and Bubba was the, plus money to miss it, then you probably play the same thing just because of where they're at in the standings, how close it is. Although I do have more faith in Bubba to get it done than Ross at this point in time, just because of, how they've been running lately and everything. But yeah, it's a little bit surprising to me kind of how they have this laid out.
Yeah, and again, when you look at just the simple fact that Bubba Wallace, we talked about Ross Chastain only having 7 top 10s. I know Bubba's only got 8 top 10s, but you look at the last few races for Bubba, a 7th, a 13th, a 10th, and a 5th. Much better, much more improved of last 4 races than has Ross Chastain. And honestly, for him, he's just got to do this. I mean, he's had so much going on in his head. He's had so much going on the track that for him, pardon me, to make the playoffs for a second year in a row, it'd be huge for his confidence, huge for the team's confidence. So like you said, at 2-1 to make the playoffs when he's actually closer on the bubble than Ross Chastain, because Ross Chastain is on the wrong side of a bad streak and Bubba's sort of heating up. So those 7 points
at 7 points over 4 races, that's absolutely nothing. I mean, it really, he could beat him by 2 spots in all of those races and nobody gets stage points and that's it. Like he's ahead of him now. So It's not very much. 7 points can be made up in one weekend, as we've seen him do over the last couple of weeks, but especially spread out over 4 weeks when Bubba's doing pretty good on trending up, and Ross is just struggling and seemingly even trending down.
Yeah, and if the places are flopped at the end of Richmond, you best believe that Bubba's not going to stay plus money to make the playoffs. He'll be the one that'll be minus 200 or something to make it, and plus money to not. So, yeah, I mean, unless you think he's not going to make it and he outperforms Chastain on at Richmond, and you want to take the plus money side of it and wait for that to happen, then if you are a believer that Bubba's not going to make the playoffs, wait till Richmond. If he outperforms Chastain at Richmond and the numbers flip, then you take this then. But I still think the 2-1 right now is a good enough deal to take Bubba to get into the playoffs. So, all right, we'll talk about more in a second, but let me tell you first about Rhythm. Football season is here, and the college football and NFL models are now live on Rhythm. Create your own winning bet model or let Rhythm do the heavy lifting for you. You decide what stats matter most to you, and Rhythm builds a custom model around that, or just let Rhythm and its predictive model do the heavy lifting. Rhythm uses AI projections from MIT data scientists, and Rhythm already has you covered for NFL Week 1 and college football Week 0. Love us some Rhythm. Get in there. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Tell you about Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Imagine the regret that you'd feel sitting around if you win your office pool, your office survivor pool even, and you didn't even enter the Circa contest, the Circa Survivor contest. Don't do that to yourself. Don't live with that remorse. Go in there and get that done. Don't have a trip booked before football season yet to go to Las Vegas? Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great time to go. You can hang with Ryan and Sean and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through August the 24th. Use promo code SGP15 to save 15% on your hotel room for the sign-up weekend. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal now with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 when you use that code SGP. Well then, Cody, let's continue down this list. Let's talk about Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher. We talked about him being about, 17 points up right now to the good. He is tough. Minus 210, yes, plus 165 at the no. Chances are he'll make it without a couple of new winners, Cody, but
17 points isn't that much, right? Minus 210 for the yes is absolutely not. We're not betting on that for sure. I think you can build a case for the no. I don't love it as much, but boy, things have been fairly rough for Chris Buescher as of late, right? It just seems like every time you kind of turn around, and I wanted to pull up his race results here lately because it feels like it's just been, well, maybe it's not been as bad as I thought. I mean, 22nd at Indy, 11th at Pocono, 20th at Chicago, but a couple of 5th places before that at Nashville, New Hampshire. Iowa was rough, but 3rd at Sonoma. I guess it's been an up and down season for Buescher, but I have so much more faith and trust and belief in Chris Buescher than I do in Ross Chastain for sure, and even in Bubba Wallace. To the teammate aspect of things, obviously we know that Brad has had a very good season. He's got the win. He's been running a lot better, and Chris shouldn't be too far. We've seen those cars be very almost too similar in the past, right? And there's been a little bit of a difference now, but we know what Chris can do. We've talked about his ability to catch fire at the right time. But if you wanted to bet, if you believe in Ross Chastain and you also believe in Bubba Wallace, you could bet the Bubba Wallace yes and the Buescher no instead of the Chastain no. If you think that that's the combination that makes it, because I could see that happening as well. There's only, Bubba's only 24 points behind Buescher, so it's a little bit of a bigger gap for sure, but could be made up if Buescher falls on hard times. So I think the case can be made for the no side of things at plus 165, but I'm not interested in betting on it.
Well, and honestly, too, even if somebody new wins, then Buscher's still there. I mean, it would have to take 2 new winners and a really big charge from Chastain and or Bubba Wallace to get there. Because when you look at even Chase Briscoe, he's too far back to really make a huge dent in this. He'd have to win. Kyle Busch would have to win.
And
Todd
Chastain's
Gilliland.
only 10 points behind him, so that's not one winner, and Chastain finishing 10 spots ahead of him. Basically, it's finishing 10, 11 spots ahead of him over 4 races. That's not that crazy either. So it's not crazy to make the no case, but I just have more faith in him than I do in Chastain for sure. And even in Bubba, I think I've got more faith in Buscher.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, look, his average finish 14.3 this season, his average start 17.9. Chris Buscher's not lighting the world on fire, but if we're just talking about being within the top 16 drivers of the sport, he's consistently done that this year. So
yeah, and gosh, did he won at Richmond last year, right? I think so. He also won at Daytona last year. So, or God, did he win at Michigan too? Or I feel like he won 2 of those 3. Those might be the 3 tracks he won at. Now I need to look at that because
I was going to say I'm pulling it.
We're
right
possibly coming into a very strong stretch for him.
Richmond, Michigan, and Daytona, all 3.
Yeah, so he won 3 of the next 4 races we're coming to. So I think that can pretty much rest the case of betting against Chris Buscher right there, because Jesus, he should be good at these tracks.
You would hope so with that. I mean, yeah, again, it was Richmond that started it out.
As I started to say that, I'm like, gosh, I think these were the 3 tracks he won at. So the schedule was laid out a little differently. They weren't back to back to back, but boy, they set this up nicely for Buscher down the stretch here.
Sure did. So yeah, definitely. The no case is there, but I don't think it's really that strong. So not going to take that one. And then last but not least, we've got young Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs sitting currently 42 points above the cut line. His yes is at minus 210. His no
Which
is at plus 165.
Very, very interesting. So Buscher is 17 points to the good, and his yes is minus 210. Gibbs is 42 points to the good. His yes is also minus 210. That to me is very shocking. Why are these priced the same when it's such a big difference for how many points cushion they've got? I mean, that's a lot of math.
Let me ask you, are you gonna bet minus 210 at all? I mean, that doesn't would that have swayed you either way?
Probably not. I don't think I could do it. But if you had to make a case for any one of these minus money yeses, and you gun to my head right now, you got to pick one of these. Ty Gibbs is the one I'm picking because it's only minus 210, which is not sexy at all, right? And we don't love that, but really, that's not that big of a number when he's got a 42-point cushion and a 2-driver cushion, right? He's got both Buscher and Chastain sitting behind him. Now, this could go very wrong for Ty Gibbs. We've seen some not great calls from, I know Erica's yelling at the radio, Chris Gale, it's all his fault. I know. I feel you, Erica. It's been rough from Chris Gale lately, and they've had some issues and stuff, but he's still in a fucking Gibbs car. He's still talented as hell. Like, why is he only minus 210? Again, I'm not usually racing to bet on a minus 210 ever, but if I had to pick one, this is the one to do. And why is the no only plus 165? It's a carbon copy of Chris Buscher when he's got so much more comfortable. I'm not going to say there's a mulligan in there, but you're close to having a full mulligan in there before you're right on the same level playing field. So the number's a little bit strange to me how it's the same price with such a big points difference.
Well, to me, the 2-driver cushion is really what makes this one even more tempting than anything else, because 2 drivers would have to win in the next 4 races, and that's already difficult. I mean, I know we've seen a lot of new drivers winning, but again, two in that span would, I think, be a little bit tough to handle. 3, I guess 3 is what it would end up being, because you'd move down 2 spots, and then you'd have
or 2 and Buscher would have to catch him.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot more that keeps him in playoffs than there is Chris Buscher.
I
will say that if you are one of those people that do believe that Ty Gibbs is on a downward trajectory, given his 32nd at Sonoma, his 25th at Iowa, 16th in New Hampshire, 23rd at Nashville, his great third place at Chicago, yay, but 27th and 23rd over the last couple of races. And you really do believe that is not a good omen for his playoff shots, then that plus 165.
Those still aren't like bad enough finishes to whittle this away, though. Like, you gotta like be out of the race, man. I'm definitely not like feeling uberly confident that we're in the playoffs. He's good, but you got to be feeling pretty good. And their entire plan over this next 4 races should be get as many fucking points as you possibly can, and do not fuck this up. Like, don't take extra big risks. Play it safe. Play it conservative. Score as many fucking points as you possibly can, because you're right there on the edge of you should not lose this points. I mean, you shouldn't lose this many points to not get into the championship. And 3 winners coming from but not only below the cut line, but below these guys too. I mean, you know, if Buescher wins it, yeah, that puts Gibbs farther down there, but there's still the same amount of spots left that there currently is. So, yeah, I think that I'm definitely not betting the no on this, but you could maybe even talk me into, if you're a Gibbs fan and you want to bet the minus 210, I wouldn't hate it.
I don't know if you enjoy and if you're comfortable with betting minus 210, the odds are out there for a reason.
I mean, yeah, minus 210 is not, again, it never feels good to make that bet, no matter how sure you are on something. But it worked for Max Verstappen for a long time, so who knows?
Yeah, it did too. Yeah, you could, if you find the formula to make the money at it, then go ahead and do that. I personally don't have the bankroll to make minus 210 work, but that's on you. So, all right, that is it for the drivers that we have selected. Let's move on, Cody, to the winning manufacturer. Like we said, Bet365's got some fun stuff going on. So the winning manufacturer for this Cup Series champions, Toyota, the favorite at plus 120, Chevy plus 175, Ford at plus 250. Does Ford make it back to back to back? That's the question.
You probably, how do you not bet Ford at plus 250, Rod?
It almost feels like you just can't not do it. Like,
because look, they've won the championship 2 years in a row. They won all 3 championships last year in the Cup, Truck, and Xfinity Series. Early this season, were we hammering the panic button on Ford? Yes, we were. Like, holy shit, all 3 series, they're struggling. What's going on? Panic button doesn't exist anymore because things are fine in the Ford camp. Like, things are looking great. You're in this group, right? So locked in, you are getting Blaney, of course. Do what?
I said 5 drivers.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, so you get Blaney, you get Keselowski. Those are 2 guys I like right there, right? Joey Logano. Oh, we know he's capable of winning, especially in an even year. Rod tried to tell you at the beginning of the season. You get Chris Buescher at this point is in. Who else am I missing in the Ford?
Austin Cindric. You ain't giving any love to Austin Cindric?
Shit.
Come on, brother.
No, I'm actually not even going to say his name because that doesn't matter. But hey, you never know. And, hey, Todd Gilliland goes and wins at Daytona. Okay, that's probably asking a little too much. But a guy like Chase Briscoe, tough for Briscoe to get in on points, right? As we kind of talked about. But if he's able to win at Daytona and get in, suddenly he's a little bit more scarier than he should be. And he's won it at Phoenix before. But getting the 2 RFK cars, getting the 2 Penske cars, again, Cindric doesn't count. But having those 4 guys, they're all very capable of winning a championship. I can see all 4 of those guys being the champion. I can't see Cindric being the champion at the end of the year. But I can see those 4 guys being the champion at the end of the year. Plus 250, compared to these other numbers. That's definitely the one that jumps out to me right away.
It'd be one thing if we had like Gragson, Barry, McDowell, Gilliland, and Priest all in the playoffs and fighting for that. Then I would say plus 250. I tell you what, if we had those drivers, it'd be way more than plus 250. But yeah, you're right. Plus 250 for guys like Blaney and Logano and Keselowski.
So like the other way to look at this is compare this to the team odds, right? So Chevrolet is plus 175. If you just go and take Hendrick Motorsports at plus 125, that's really all you're getting in here anyways. You got the 4 Hendrick cars, really the 3 Hendrick cars, probably, right? Daniel Suarez ain't winning this. Ross Chastain, it's going to be pretty tough. Those are the only Chevys even in here. So, yeah, I mean, Chevy, you're obviously getting a better number, I guess. So take it that way if you want to, because it's plus 175. But, and then for Toyota, it's plus 120, whereas Gibbs is at plus 125. So I guess you get Tyler Reddick in there, which is nice. But if you're on the same plan we are, you've already got plenty of him already. And Bubba Wallace is probably not going to win the championship either, right? So I think that specifically looking at it, you could just bet Gibbs, you could just bet Hendrick, although it looks like it's a better deal to bet the manufacturer for both of these. But with Ford, you're getting 2 teams. You're getting both RFK and Penske, which is contribute 2 equal cars. It's the same amount of cars. And that's the other thing too, is like when you're looking at this, you kind of think automatically like, well, Chevy has a lot of cars, right? Chevy has the most cars in the field. They got a lot of cars. You get more options. Are you though? I mean, yeah, Kyle Larson could win this. William Byron could win this. Chase Elliott could win this. Do we have any other Chevys that are probably really super likely to win this? I mean, do you want to put Alex Bowman in? No. So there's less Chevys than there is Fords, right? And then kind of this honest, well, so Toyota, I would say you have 4 there as well, because it's the 3 Gibbs cars in Bell, Hamlin, and Truex, even though he's a little bit, Truex could definitely win this. And then you're also getting Reddick, Gibbs. Again, love the kid. It's just, I don't see that happening yet. So really, yeah, you're getting 4 Toyotas, 4 Fords, only 3 Chevys. So just be careful how you're looking at that, because you automatically want to think like, oh, you're getting so many more Chevys, but got to break it down. Really, you're not. And so, yeah, are the Gibbs and Hendrick, Chevys and Toyotas way stronger? We think, yes, in general sense, but Ford has caught up, and they've done it the last 2 seasons when they were teams that were dominant all season too. So I think that Ford is definitely the way to go in this market.
Yeah, the only one that I would touch would be the Ford at plus 250, because that number is the only number that seems like it's worth even speculating on, because we'll just make the transition since you talked about it.
Yeah, and real quick too, just like think about the futures that you have placed, right? Like I'm holding a William Byron, so that somewhat covers me in Chevy. Now, obviously, I'm still susceptible to a Kyle Larson winning, but that takes one of the Chevys out of the conversation now that I've got, right? So now I can sort of hedge it with some Ford guys. I've already got Tyler Reddick, so that's one of the Toyotas that's out of there, right? So look at your portfolio, and our guy Phil does this a lot over on Full Tank with Phil. He'll bet his Toyota to win, or his manufacturer to win the race, and then pick his other winners that aren't on that manufacturer to balance out the card. So look at what you've got. You already have half of the Chevy market covered, or 2 of the 3 Chevys covered. What do you need plus 175 to get the other Chevy? Probably not, right? So again, it's all strategy and looking at what you have, but just something to think about.
Yeah, and when you talked, like you said, with Elliott and Larson being probably the 2 strongest parts in that, might even make more sense to just break up a unit and put money on them to win outright, because you're getting better odds to win the outright championship for both of those guys anyways. So, you don't have to worry about outside interference from a Chastain or some other guy that's going to lurk out in the shadows of Bowman or anything like that. So, but just to switch over to the team then, since we're already talking about those in length, Joe Gibbs, like Cody said, plus 125 to win. Hendrick plus 125 to win. Penske plus 475 to win. 2311, 12-1. RFK, 12-1. Trackhouse, 22-1. Richard Childress Racing, 50-1. Any other team, 66-1. Let's go front row. And then Stuart Haas, 100-1 to win the championship. So honestly, the books are saying a Gibbs or a Hendrick driver is going to win this one. But God, Penske is such a great number.
Yeah. So as far as the Gibbs and Hendrick one goes, don't bet on those. Just go bet on the manufacturer because Toyota's at plus 120, whereas Gibbs is at plus 125. So you're taking a 5-point discount, but you also get Reddick, which you might as well. Chevy's plus 175, whereas Hendrick is plus 125. So you're also getting coverage on a Kyle Busch or a Daniel Suarez or a Ross Chastain pulling a trophy out of their hat on accident in winning that, and you're getting a better number anyways. So bet the Chevy. Penske at 475. Because like Blaney's only 8-1, Joey's only 14-1. So it might not be bad to go that route and have one bet instead of betting them individually. I'd have to break out the calculator to figure that exactly out. But the 23-11 at 12-1, don't bet that. Just go bet Tyler Reddick at a bigger number because I love Bubba, but he's not going to win this thing.
No.
RFK at 12-1.
Just take Keselowski. I don't think Buescher.
Yeah, I mean, Buescher is definitely capable. That's the thing, though, is like, and we just talked about how hot he can get. He won all three of these tracks that are coming up. Like, I don't hate that for sure. I did give out Keselowski, I think 20-1 as one of the guys that I would bet on. I probably would still go that route, but if you're worried about Buescher, 12-1 I don't think is a bad idea. Trackhouse at 22-1. I mean, Ross Chastain is 28-1, and Daniel Suarez is not going to win. I know Suarez is the one that's locked in, but he's not winning the championship. So don't save your money. Childress at 50-1. Busch is at what, 65-1, 75-1. Just go bet him because it's not going to be Austin Dillon. The other team doesn't have a chance. It's 66-1. I mean, Stewart Haas at 100. Well,
how telling is that, Cody? That any other team, and they're like any other team. Oh, but wait,
anybody else?
101.
Yeah, that is yeah. We'll lump you in at the 66-1, but we're also going to give you at 100-1. I mean, look, if Barry or Briscoe were to win one of these upcoming races, which I think they'd be capable of, they could potentially be dangerous if they could get all the way to Phoenix. At 100-1, if you were a fan of one of those guys, or you think maybe Stewart Haas goes out on top their last season, but probably not.
I'm not thinking that either. But yeah, I mean, yeah, so a lot of these, it's funny because the winning teams, like you had just said, you can get better numbers on some of the individual drivers, anyways, and a lot of these 2-car, 3-car ones that have.
Well, it's the ones that you don't really need both the cars. Like Trackhouse, you don't need both the cars. You just need Ross Chastain. And 23-11, you don't need both the cars. You just need Tyler Reddick. Like, whereas RFK and Penske, you're going to maybe want both the cars, or maybe Penske. No, I'm not even going to say all 3 cars for Penske. You're going to want both the cars for Penske and RFK, maybe more so potentially. Obviously, you're going to get a better number if you just take one of the guys, but you can see Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney both winning because, well, guess who's won it the last 2 years, right? So yeah, just all things to make sure you think about when you go through this. And the same thing with the Hendrick and the Gibbs. Why would you bet Hendrick at plus 125 when you can just bet Chevy at plus 175? Again, I just made the case that it's probably going to be a Hendrick car if it's a Chevy. Yes, but just in case, and it's a better number anyways. So you're basically getting the same result plus more possibilities for a bigger number, which makes 0 sense, but helps you. So I like it.
Anything that helps you is something that we definitely want to highlight on this. All right, Cody, let's wrap this up by looking at some of these exact forecasts. At first glance, it's daunting because it's all alphabetical order. There's a ton. And what's funny is that when you look at some of these first ones, like Alex Bowman is the first guy on the list, obviously because A is the first letter in the alphabet, from what I learned in school once upon a time. But you get Alex Bowman first, Brad Keselowski second. That combination, 275-1, if that were the exact combination. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here. Alex Bowman first, Christopher Bell second. Oh, actually, Alex Bowman first, Chase Elliott second, 150-1, so on and so forth. But if you're trying to think of some of these ones that are actually going to do something, like let's say Kyle Larson. All right, anything to do with Kyle Larson, obviously we know is a little bit shorter. Let's say Kyle Larson first, Denny Hamlin second. That one to me is like one of the first ones that jumps out that feels like it's doable. That's 14-1. So you have to get an exact Kyle Larson first, Denny second.
Like with that though, they got to get all the way to the Final Four. Both of them do. And then they have to be the first and second finishing of the championship cars. Like 14-1 just isn't the only way that I'm betting. I think you got to be 40-1 or bigger to bet on any of these. And I think there's a couple of fun ones for sure. I'm circling a few that I'm liking here, but you have to, I just, man, like, Larson Denny obviously makes a lot of sense because they run 1-2. Although what's Denny Larson? Because Denny beats Larson every time, Rod.
Oh, you're right. So let's see.
It's
Denny
also 14-1, but because that's usually the order they finish. But I just think because, like, keep in mind, right? This isn't just we know the championship four and you're picking two of the four. These guys are two of the 16. They got to get all the way to the four and then be the top finishing two of the four. So you're kind of asking for a lot.
Well, which one is fun to you? Because I have one that I think is kind of fun.
Well, let's hear yours, Rod. I want to hear yours first.
All right. So I just found Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski 100-1. Ryan Blaney, if we think he can repeat and do it again. We've already talked about Brad Keselowski having a good go at it and being able to make a charge for this. So if Ryan Blaney manages to hold off and do it, I think 100-1 is fine with that. I'm looking for the flip side of that. Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, 110-1. So if you flip that, if you think Brad Keselowski can get it done and Ryan Blaney's finishing second, 110-1 for that one. So that's a fun little duo.
I like it. All right, I found three, Rod, that I'm going to take. Just little sprinkles on each, but they're all longer odds. The first one, Denny Hamlin finally gets that championship. Tyler Reddick right behind him. The car owner wins. The protege, future multi-time champion, right behind him, 40-1. I think that those cars, if they both make it there, will be set up similarly. I think they'll be fast. I think that once Hamlin gets out front, he'll be able to hold off Tyler, and Tyler will hold everyone else back. So Hamlin, Reddick, 1-2 at 40-1. Reddick, Larson, 45-1. Reddick, I already love to win it. Larson should be in the mix, right? Because he's the best car out there. We get that. Reddick gets it done, gets around Larson, late pit stop, whatever the case is, holds him off, 45-1. And then Rod, they've done this a million times, finished right next to each other. Why couldn't they do it again? Brad Keselowski and Christopher Buescher, 250-1.
Ooh,
let's go, baby.
That's a good one. Actually, that's a fun one. That's one that
that's what this betting market is. It's not, let's get Denny and Larson just because they're short and they're always good. Like, it's so tough. Like, Buescher gets things figured out, right? He gets a couple of wins coming up here soon. They get rolling in the playoffs. Both RFK cars make it there. Brad gets the championship. That 6 car finally gets the victory. Buescher's right there behind him. We see these cars have run 13th and 14th together for years and 7th and 8th together for years. Why not 1 and 2 at 250-1? It's worth a shot.
That is worth a shot. I'll toss in one more because it is an even year. We might as well just give Joey Logano out for all the grins and all that. Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, 45-1. So Logano first, Larson second at 45-1. I mean, it is, like I said, an even year. We laughed at it until he finally made the playoffs, and now destiny's set in stone. And it's got to be Joey Logano's year. So give me Joey Logano, and then right behind him, Kyle Larson leading the points. He's going to finish second to Joey Logano, and at 45-1, that's Cody's threshold right there for making it fun. So
it is. I like it.
Beautiful. All right, Cody. Well, anything else we want to talk about as we bring this week to a close? I think we've exhausted.
Yeah, I think that covers everything as far as that goes. We didn't touch on news at the top of the show, but one newsworthy thing that we could talk about real quick: Juan Pablo Montoya making his return to the NASCAR Cup Series. He is going to be racing at Watkins Glen for 2311 in that number 50 car, the Mobile One car. So that's pretty exciting. It's been 10 years. The Brickyard 400, 10 years ago was the last time he was in a Cup car. I don't know that you're going to really expect too much out of him, but we know obviously Juan Pablo Montoya, former Formula One guy, former IndyCar guy, former Cup Series guy for a long time. I believe he won 1 or 2 races at Watkins Glen. If you've not seen the jet dryer incident, Google Juan Pablo Montoya jet dryer and just watch that video, because it is one of the funnier things you will ever see. It's it's pretty entertaining. And luckily everybody was okay. Obviously, that's what makes it funny. But that's pretty cool. Pretty cool thing. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know what he's been up to racing for the past 10 years, if he's done much. And obviously the cars have changed a lot, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I love me some Juan Pablo Montoya. I remember when I first started watching, that was like his heyday for the most part, when everybody was, trying to grab him to be a driver on a road course or anything like that. So yeah, it'll definitely be fun to watch him tear it up again. Hopefully, I guess. I don't know. This isn't a Jimmy Johnson thing where he comes back and doesn't do anything for me, but we'll see. We'll see.
I don't know that he'll do much, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'll still be fun to watch him in the car, kind of wave his little cap around.
Yep.
That's all right. Is he related to Indigo Montoya? No, no one killed his father. We do not have to prepare to die. He does not have 6 fingers, 6-fingered men. It's Friday, Cody. We've devolved into
we've gotten through the buys, Rod, and we're ready for some racing now. And we're back to talk Richmond, all things Richmond next week, and I'm excited for it.
I am too. So then let's release everyone for the weekend to have a great old time as we start to prepare for Richmond. So until then, Cody, let everybody know where they can find you out in the wide world.
You can follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. PLL picks are out. And lots of other stuff coming. Women's water polo, if you want. Went 2 for 3 today. So maybe we'll be back with something else similar in the near future. And just going to keep things rolling. Can't wait for Richmond next week and get back in the swing of things. I'm pumped, Rod. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.
Indeed, yes. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio to everything I've got going on, including that new fun thing that's going on there. You can check out that as well. Please do. And we'll be back next week with more talking Richmond. So excited to get back to racing, excited to get back to the normal grind. So until then, everyone, have a great weekend, and let's go racing and let it ride.